Okay, so in this repair video, we're gonna go over a MacBook Air. This is the 2012 11-inch model. Customer spilled drinking alcohol on it, and as a result, he lost the backlight on the screen. So the laptop does power on. You do see an image on the screen, but the image is extremely dim. It's dim to a point where you cannot see what's going on. You have to really look closely to see the image on the screen. So I already took the laptop apart. I took the screen apart. I did a physical inspection on the board. I noticed that the LVDS cable that connects to the LVDS connector is bad. And let me show it to you under the microscope. Before we start working on the repair, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, PCB GoGo. PCB GoGo is a leading printed circuit board fabrication and assembly manufacturer. Whether you are a student, hobbyist, or a professional, PCB GoGo will handle everything from designing your circuit board layout to PCB fabrication, prototype, and assembly. No minimum required. They can fabricate boards up to 14 layers and offer a huge variety of options, including flexible PCB, custom size, custom thickness, color options, and a lot more. Get an instant quote by visiting PCBGoGo.com or click on the link below. Make sure to check them out, and let's proceed with the repair. So as you can see, the cable has damage to it. So what we did, we have a salvaged screen in stock, the same model screen. This is a salvaged one with a broken LCD. What we did is we had to take apart that screen, take all the bits and pieces from the bottom here, and then we were finally able to pull that LVDS cable off the salvaged screen, and we put it on the customer's screen. So now we have a good working cable that we installed on the customer's screen. Changing the cable on this LCD is not easy because we have to take off the bezel. We have to take off that board that has two ribbon cables connected to it, and there's also one cable connected to it from the back. So there's a risk that you may damage the screen, and if you damage the screen, it's not a cheap replacement. So now we have a good cable on the customer's screen. We tried the screen on the customer's laptop, and we still do not have a backlight. We have to do further inspection on the board to see what's going on. The next thing I want to do is inspect the LVDS connector, where that cable connects to. And we do see some discolored pins on that connector. Discolored pins do not mean that the connector is bad, but it's a sign. Those pins, they extend all the way to the inside, and when you hook up the LVDS cable will make connection with those pins from the inside here. So before I start troubleshooting anything else on the board, I'm gonna go ahead and replace the LVDS connector. After we replace it, then we can start troubleshooting other areas on the board in case backlight is still not working. So let's go ahead and remove this connector, solder a new connector back on, and we'll test and see if we have a working backlight. And one thing you do not want to do is you do not want to work on the board while that board is still inside the casing. A lot of heat can cause damage to the keyboard, it can cause damage to the battery, it can cause damage to your SSD drive, and to other areas of the laptop. So the first thing I'm gonna do is apply low melt solder onto the pins and the sides. I do not want to expose the board to a lot of heat, to a lot of unnecessary heat. So low melt solder is the way to go. It's just an overall safer way to do things. All right.
I need to get this like wiped because
see, as I'm applying low melt solder, the pins are actually moving under. So now it's going to take very little heat to pry that connector out. And we just want to apply some on the sides here. Let's do the other side. So we're gonna hold the connector from here. We're gonna apply heat. Just a little bit of heat. What we do not want to do is pull on that connector. We do not want to do that so we don't lose any pads from the board. The connector is safely out. Let's wait until the board cools down a bit. So we have two missing pads. We do not know what those pads do. We're gonna open up the board diagram and the circuit diagram and see what these pads are for. Worst case, we can just run wires and everything should be good. Let's take a look at the board view for this board. And right now we are missing pad 2 and 5. Probably those are not connected. 2 and 5. Pin number 2 and 5 are not connected. We do not need those pads, and that's why they are weak. They just came right off because they're not connected to anything. This is our new connector. We just want to align it properly. What I'm going to do is apply solder blobs onto the sides here or this piece here. I just want to hold the connector in place while we solder the front pins, but to hold it in place we have to solder the sides, or we can solder this right here. The sides should be easier, so let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's do the other side quick. Now we can solder the front. Let's make sure the pins are soldered on properly. One. This one is not connected to any pads. Okay, this is a bad tweezer. Let me change the tweezer. 3, 4. This one is not connected to anything. 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so everything is good. Okay, so perfect. As you can see, pins 2 and 5 are not connected to anything. These pins are not connected onto the board, they're just there. So we do not have to run any wires. The rest of the pins are soldered on very nicely. Let's go ahead and try out the board and see if everything is good. Alright, so after assembly we still have a problem with the backlight. So we need to troubleshoot what else is wrong. We changed the LVDS connector, we changed the LVDS cable, and we still do not have a backlight on the screen. So I have the schematic open over here, and this is the backlight circuit right there. The first thing I'm gonna do is check the fuse. The backlight circuit starts from here and it ends right here, and this is what goes to the LVDS connector. So let's start with the fuse, F7700. The fuse is right there on top. This fuse is needed for backlight to work. If the fuse is not good, then we're not gonna have a backlight. So we're gonna start by looking at the fuse. And look at that. This fuse does not look good at all. Now we could have done this at the beginning and looked at the board, but we clearly had a bad LVDS cable and a discolored LVDS connector, so we had to change those. Let's test if that fuse is good. And is it continuous from here to here? And it's not. So our fuse is bad. Let's go ahead and change the fuse. Hey, how are you?
Do you repair motherboards?
Do we what?
Motherboards.
Okay, and that's it.
Hi, how are you? Do you guys repair Apple Watches?
Now the capacitor right next to it does not look good either. This one here. Let's change that capacitor also because the capacitor does not look good. Where is it? We can tell that one side of the capacitor came off. So you have this nice shiny end here and you do not have anything here. So let's get rid of it. And that's it. NorthridgeFix?
Hey, this is Greg Hahnemann from yesterday.
Yay, buddy, how are you?
Oh yeah, if I were to go get new RAM cards,
Uh-huh.
you think that might help?
Right. And that's it. Okay, so I have everything in. I have the LCD cable plugged in. We have the hard drive, we have the battery, and we have the keyboard. So let's see if we have any luck. I still do not see an image on the screen, and it works. Laptop is working now. We have a lot more things to get done. We got about 12 repairs today, plus 3 from YouTube. This one is coming from Jesus, Fresno, California. And Jesus also sent another package, Fresno, California. So you have 2 packages. I think both of them are MacBooks. And we also have one coming from Florida. I believe this is an iMac motherboard. We'll do some of them on camera. I hope you enjoyed the video. Go ahead and like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video.